I got into a heated discussion recently with my friend about Omniscient Reader. We talked about, like, the plot, the characters, where the story's going to go, and obviously how long it actually is. And upon this conversation, we eventually started talking about, like, how far has the webcomic adapted the novel. For those that are unaware, Omniscient Reader Viewpoint is based on an actual light novel series. It's already complete, and I believe the side stories are still ongoing. Maybe most of them are complete, but from my knowledge, there is still content coming out for the story. But the point of the matter is that when you take a hard look at, like, Omniscient Reader, you look at how many chapters it has, and this isn't even showing all the chapters. Like, if you were to read it on mobile, there's currently 280 chapters, and if you look at the chapter count, and then you look at, like, how far the story has went at this point, like, for instance, it's been ongoing for over 5 years now. Literally, we just passed the 5-year anniversary, literally, like, last month. You would think that we're maybe close to finishing, but apparently we're only 30 or 40% into Omniscient Reader. There is still like a whole other 50 to 60% left of the story to adapt from the novel, and that's not even including the side stories, which that's another big bombshell. So I'm just sitting back thinking, like, holy crap, this series in general, I'm gonna be blunt with you guys. It's one of my favorite series to read on a weekly basis. Like, I put it up there with, like, Chainsaw Man and One Piece. It's one of those series that I've just been reading every single time a new chapter comes out. I've always been reading it for years at this point. Literally since it ever became a webcomic back in 2020, I've been pretty much making videos on this. And with, obviously, recent news that Omniscient Reader is going to be getting an anime adaptation relatively soon, I'm looking forward to that. Because if we look at anything from recent history when it comes to, let's say, you know, a webcomic series into an anime adaptation, Soul Leveling is a good indication that if something like Omniscient Reader is given time, love, and attention, and a great studio and staff, it is going to blow up and become one of the most popular anime of all time. And I have my fingers crossed that Omniscient Reader will get that love and attention because of how unique it is. And I'm just going to be completely blunt here, okay? I'm going to just say it. People might disagree with me, but I'm going to just straight up say it. I think out of every webcomic / webtoon I have read over the years, there's only a few that I really think is just, like, some of the best, okay? Like, for instance, Tower of God, Hardcore Leveling Warrior. But Omniscient Reader, the more and more I read it, the more I come back to it on a weekly basis to read a new chapter, I grow more and more fond of the story. I get more invested within the world building, the lore, the different mythologies that coexist with each other. It has literally everything that I would want from a story. Like, for instance, if you take a look at, like, the series and stuff and what's happened, it has fantasy, it has sci-fi, it has mythology, it has power fantasy, it has reincarnation, it has isekai, it has transported to another world, it has martial arts, it has tournament arts, it has death, it has dark fantasy themes. It encompasses everything. It has literally every form of genre. It has everything. It even has romance and comedy and all that. And I think that is why I really like Omniscient Reader, because it is a story that's somehow able to combine all these different themes, all these different messages, all these different stories from many things we've heard time and time again into one story that is just so unique. And I think that what happened recently in, like, the latest chapters, like chapter 270 to 280 right now, is really just ironic because it talks about the exact same thing I'm just now talking about, is that our main character, he wants to reach the end of all stories. And this seems like a very blanket statement, but the point of the matter is that the very concept of Omniscient Reader is to read a story or to create a fantastic story and to interest people, to engage readers. There's a lot of meta-level nature to this series because obviously it's talking about within the world versus people watching what's going down, but also it's directly talking to us, the reader, the audience that reads this series on a weekly or monthly basis. And when you see how the character wants to reach the end of all stories, you're wondering, how can he manage something like that? Because there's so many things that has been implemented into Omniscient Reader, you're left wondering to yourself, like, how is it going to conclude all these different things without maybe a massive apocalypse of some kind? Because, I mean, you have people like Persephone, you have Zeus, you have Hades, you have, you just have random mythological figures, you just have, like, just random worlds, fantasy, sci-fi, and stuff all mixing together. It's just like, how in the hell are you supposed to end all these stories and reach the end of all this to make it feel satisfying? And that's the big question I have, because over the years, as I have continued to read Omniscient Reader, there is one thing that has continued to be very consistent. One consistency is the quality of the story, but the second consistency is that people that have read Omniscient Reader's light novel has strictly told me that it's good. Like, it's a great conclusion, they were satisfied, and that hearing that is honestly just a rarity nowadays, because it's like, there's so many stories I have read over the years that just, like, they're amazing, like, they're crazy good, and then they get to a point to where you get to the ending, the final arc, and it's just disappointing. It feels like it just, like, craps all over itself, and it's just, like, it's not that good. It's awful. It feels like the journey was wasted. But that is not how Omniscient Reader has been, and from everybody, what they've told me from the novel, it doesn't do that. It's actually really freaking good. And so that is one of the big reasons why I could just continue to love this series. I continue to have faith and love this series so much, because every time a new chapter comes out, I'm just amazed by the direction of the story. Now, with all the glazing out of the way, there is a few things I do want to talk about, and I just really want to take a few moments to mention the art style shift. When I was just, like, talking with my friend about Omniscient Reader, I noticed something looking like Chapter 1, for instance, and then looking at, like, Chapter 273, you can notice some big differences in the way the art style has improved. Obviously, writing for 5 years and drawing for 5 years, you're going to improve considerably, but I want you to look at closely at, like, the facial designs real quick, the way the chin and jawline is drawn, and you look at, let's say, for instance, Chapter 1, these are the same characters technically, at least design-wise, and you can see just how the difference into the, the chin shape and the way the cheeks and jawline are done. It is actually insane looking at the differences. Like, look, this is the same character, by the way. Just look at the design differences, and you can see this consistency as it goes. Like, it's improved a lot. I really appreciate that. But, back into the main topic, though. Omniscient Reader is a series that I feel like, in due time, if it gets a good anime adaptation, I feel like this can dethrone Solo Leveling. I 100% think it could. I don't know, though, if, it really depends. Because it's a simple story, but not. It's half and half there, because it starts off very basic, with, like, the whole reincarnation, or transport to another world, and stuff like that, but it does get complicated. There is a lot of elements to it. It's not, like, super hard to follow. It's not. It's very simplistic, but it is a gradual progression of power fantasy that is just done super well, because typically with these stories, when it comes to, like, power fantasy, the character gets strong way too quickly, and it feels like, there's very rare times in stories where a power fantasy feels very fun, because eventually that flair of a character being OP just simmers off, and you just don't care anymore. And I feel like that's, like, why One Punch Man is, like, held as one of the best power fantasies, is because of how Saitama is used in One Punch Man. And I feel like Omniscient Reader is another good example of how to do a good power fantasy, keeping it to where the character feels strong, but there also is this tension of he's not always going to succeed. There is things that will undermine him and make him fail in some areas where other characters have to go out of their way to actually save the day or do something. I think that's nice. And I don't know, man. I love Omniscient Reader, and I think that if it gets an adaptation as good as Soul Leveling, this will surpass Soul Leveling. I really do believe so. I could be wrong, but that is my assumption. Now, before I wrap up this video, though, I will say, if you haven't read the latest chapters of what's been going on, I highly recommend it, because we have our MC finally, like, talking with constellations, talking with people that have been, like, this ominous voice and giving money and stuff over, basically since the beginning of the story. It's super cool seeing characters that you just have seen in text or just, like, random speech bubbles actually appearing and having a physical form that we can see within the story now. It showcases just how far the story has progressed now, to where the constellations are now even playing an active role within the actual story. That they're now players within this very story, instead of just people that are watching as a viewer. I think that's cool, and I love this, because it's been this gradual progression that our characters have really accelerated to the point now to where they're able to talk with these entities that are basically godlike now. And apparently, like I've already said, we're only 30 to 40% into the story, so I cannot wait to see how crazy things get, like, another 200 plus chapters from now. But I'll leave it at that, though. Tell me your thoughts in the comments below, how you feel about Omniscient Reader. Do you think that the series has the potential to surpass Solo Leveling in the future if it gets a good anime adaptation? Be honest. I legitimately want to hear what you guys have to say. But be safe, stay healthy, leave a comment, helps with the algorithm. Chibi out.